What is up, party people? Back again, Hollywood Hammer here. Going to do another gear video. This time I'm going to talk about all of the clothing that I took on my PCT thru hike in 2024. That includes all of the things that I was wearing pretty much all the time while I was hiking, my sleepwear, the cold winter gear that I had sent out to me for going through the Sierra, and all that kind of stuff. This video probably has the most items of any of these gear videos, so this may be the longest one, so bear with me here. Before we dig into it, a little update. I did finally start barber school last week, 1 week in, and it is going really well. I think this is going to be a great move for me. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm pretty bummed it took me this long to pursue it, but better late than never, right? Other than that, I'm still looking for work. I had an interview a few days ago for a part-time evening position that'll work really well around my school schedule. I am going on a year of no work at this point, so fingers crossed that I get this. My pockets are definitely hurting at the moment. Other than that, everything's going well. I joined the gym, so usually after school I hit the gym for about an hour. I'm going to the gym like 6 days a week, trying to keep some of this weight off, trying to keep some of my cardio, that I gained from the PCT. I know it's unrealistic to keep that thru hiker body, but doing the best I can to at least stay in a little bit of shape. Anyway, let's get right into talking about some of the clothes that I wore during my hike, and we'll start with all of the items that I typically wore all day, every day while hiking, and we'll kind of go from the top down. So first and foremost, I have this PCT trucker hat. This is just a plain old trucker hat that I got off of Amazon, I think for like 15 bucks. It was funny, in one of the towns there was a trail angel, one of the more famous trail angels, I guess you could say. I won't say who it was or whatever, but he was wearing the same hat, and he kind of looked at me funny when he met me, and he said, "Where did you get that hat?" And I said, "Amazon." And he's like, "Oh, that's interesting." And it sort of seemed like maybe because of all the trail things that he does, maybe the PCTA gave him a hat like this or something. I don't know. Yeah, you don't really have to do anything special to get a PCT hat. You can just get one off Amazon like I did. This was pretty much on my head at all times. I sunburn very easily, as I've mentioned a million times, so I always like to have something on my head to kind of, protect my face a little bit. It held up fine. It's not made cheaply, I don't think. No tears or anything like that. The only thing that did happen was the sun kind of changed the color of it a little bit. It's a little sun bleached. This thing used to be a lot more dark than it is now, but I think that's to be expected. So really no complaints here. And I have a matching one from the AT. Yeah, I think you can pretty much get this same hat in different colors for whatever trail you choose. So yeah, Amazon trucker hat, get you one. Moving on down, let's talk about the infamous town shirt that I wore every day. This is the Town Shirt Sun Hoodie. Town Shirt is the company. I sort of became known for this thing. There were a few other hikers that I saw in this exact pattern, but not a ton. This company's been kind of known for all the crazy designs that they put on their stuff. A lot of people are not a fan of that, but I definitely am. I think it's kind of fun. This is the Manzanita pattern. It's supposed to be like their PCT shirt or whatever. But actually now they have an official PCT sun hoodie, and I think it's just a plain blue. So they're kind of starting to make some normal, no pattern shirts as well. So definitely check out Town Shirt if you're interested in the sun hoodie. I think these are the best sun hoodies that you can buy. I freaking love this thing. The main reason that I went with the Town Shirt versus some of the like outdoor research ones was because the SPF was better with this one. I believe this is 50 SPF. A lot of the other outdoor research ones were 30, I think. And with my fair skin, I wanted to be safe and get the higher SPF. One of my favorite things about this particular hoodie is that there's a little button here, so you can button that up, and then it sort of like cinches around your face, right? So then that also protects your neck from sunburn. So that was really nice for me. This guy does have the thumb holes, which I always like, to kind of cover the top of your hand. It sort of eliminates the need for sun gloves. It also has a nice big, kangaroo style pocket right here. I didn't really carry anything in it most of the time, but it was nice in towns and things like that. I really did like this thing. I don't have too many complaints. The main one is that it really stretched out over time. When I bought it, it was really form-fitting and kind of looked nice on me, and toward the end of the hike there, it was just completely stretched out, and I looked like I was swimming in it. And it's not because I lost a bunch of weight, which was another factor, of course, but the material over time, I think, and from washing it all the time, just kind of stretched it a little bit. Not a huge deal. The main reason it was kind of annoying was because the sleeves got really long. So I was always constantly having to pull up my sleeves. But again, I think that's just something to be expected with something made of this material. Another thing that I liked about the crazy pattern was that you couldn't see the sweat stains as much as some of the other hoodies. You would see some other hikers that have like a plain gray or plain blue sun hoodie, and you can just see the sweat stains throughout the whole shirt. Even after you wash them, they don't really go away. I mean, if you look at this thing closely, you can kind of see it's a little grimy looking, but the pattern definitely helps cover those sweat stains up. So that's something to think about when choosing whatever color or pattern sun hoodie you want to get. I'm a fan. I'm not going to go back to the button-up shirt like I used to wear, the Columbia ones. The sun hoodie is definitely the best option for me. And if you haven't tried one out, I definitely recommend it. These run in about $85. They're not cheap, but I would buy another one. Next up is the primary bottoms that I wore. These are Under Armour running shorts. They're the Launch running shorts, and I like the 5-inch version. It's probably the perfect length for me, I think. They've got pockets, which is nice. A lot of running shorts don't have pockets. And actually inside the right-hand pocket, there's like a mini mesh pocket too. I didn't really use it for anything, but it's nice to have, I guess. They do have a liner inside them. These liners do break down over time and kind of rip. You can see that there's a little hole in this one already, just from the constant friction going on between your legs. So eventually, this kind of wears out completely, and at that point I end up just cutting the liner out. So I did go through, this is the second pair that I had on the trail. Once it got to the point where, my liner was one giant hole, when I would sit a certain way, around campfire eating dinner or whatever, people started to sort of be able to see some things that they shouldn't be able to see. So at that point in time, I did get another pair of these. They're not super expensive. I think maybe $35 off Amazon. So I didn't mind a whole lot having to replace them. After I cut the liner out, I do save them, and I just wear them with underwear at home. This is what I work out in. So I do have a few different pairs of these now from, hiking in the past. But again, the 5-inch, perfect length for me. The material's nice. They're pretty soft. They have ties, so you can make it fit around your waist, even after you lose a bunch of weight during a thru hike. And they're really lightweight. Nothing too crazy here, just basic running shorts. I didn't experience a ton of chafing on the PCT as I have during other hikes. I know on the AT, it was much more of a problem for me. I had some problems in Arizona when I did that section of the Arizona Trail years ago, but I don't recall having many chafing issues on the PCT. I don't know if the shorts are part of that or if it's just the way that I walk and where my meat sits on my body. But I always carried Body Glide just in case. But yeah, no problems with any rubbing or anything going on with these either. Next up, as we're making our way down, we'll talk about what I wore on my feet. Some of the items I do not have. The first one is the Injinji sock liners that I always wore. They're the real thin toe socks that you wear underneath your regular socks, and it just adds another layer of protection, from your toes rubbing together and blisters and things like that. I don't have any of them with me because the ones that I finished the hike with were destroyed and had holes in them, so I just tossed them without even thinking about it. But if you go on ingingy.com or on Amazon or whatever, you'll find them pretty quickly. I swear by them. I'm always going to wear them. I've tried not wearing them for periods of time, and I always end up with blisters somewhere between my toes. Doesn't matter how much hiking I do, how tough my feet get throughout a hike, I'm pretty prone to blisters. So the sock liners are definitely a game changer. If you struggle with blisters, give them a try, and don't just use the toe socks or just the liners. You know, wear the toe sock liners underneath your other socks, and that's where you get that added protection. I think there's a common thing that people think that having socks underneath your socks will make your feet sweat more or whatever, and that's just not the case. I think it actually helps wick moisture away better. That's been my experience. I haven't had any issues with my feet sweating too much or whatever. The main complaint with the Ingingy sock liners is that they don't last very well. They're super, super thin. You know, I would say I was not getting more than, you know, we'll say 2 weeks out of them without getting holes in them. Now, I would let them go for a while. You know, a hole here and there didn't really bother me. But once the entire bottom of the sock was worn out, that was when I kind of replaced them. And I think they're 11, 12 bucks a pair. But it's worth it to me. It may not be to you, but give them a try if you struggle with blisters. Over top of the Ingingy sock liners, I always wore Darn Tough socks. These are still my go-to. This is actually a pair that I finished with. I have a bunch of these, and I wear them in my day-to-day life as well. But I think I was using these as my sleep socks toward the end of the trail there. I like the full cushion socks. I think these are maybe the mid-weight. It seemed like you could find the mid-weight a lot more than the heavyweight ones. But these were just fine. The lightweight ones are a little too light for me, not quite enough cushion, so midweight, heavyweight is kind of what I stuck with. Again, these are socks. They don't last forever. They did pretty well for me. You know, I did have to replace my socks a number of times throughout the hike. But again, I was sort of expecting that. The good thing about Darn Toughs is that they have a lifetime warranty. So you find a outfitter or a gear store that does the Darn Tough exchange, and they will take your grimy, nasty Darn Tough socks with the holes in them, and they'll give you a new pair of the same ones for free, which is pretty awesome, because if you buy, you know, 5 to 10 pairs of these in your day-to-day life, you pretty much have socks for life. You can just keep exchanging them. I did always carry 2 pairs of these, one for sleep and one for hiking. I like to have a clean pair to put on when I went to bed each night, and I pretty much always wore socks even when it was hot out. You know, having my bare feet up against the material of the quilts just doesn't feel great to me, so I usually wore socks when I slept. And having that clean pair is also great for in towns. So Darn Toughs, you know them, you love them, gonna keep buying them. Next up on my feet, or on my ankles, I guess you could say, we have Dirty Girl Gaiters. These I wore at the beginning of the hike, but eventually I kind of gave up on these. And I think that was when I switched my shoes, and we'll talk about shoes in a second. But the shoes that I ended up wearing didn't come with the Velcro strips on the back. So this Velcro here had nothing to attach to. And, you know, I didn't feel like buying Velcro strips all the time for the shoes. Even if I did buy the Velcro strips, they didn't stick on the shoes well. Anytime we did a water crossing or whatever, the Velcro strip would just come off. So anyway, I just decided to try hiking without these, and I didn't really look back. So I did start with them. I've worn them on many other hikes. I wore them on my AT hike, and I liked them just fine. But throughout the PCT, I just realized I didn't really need these all that much. I wasn't getting shit in my shoes as much as I thought I would. You know, here and there I would have to stop and dump a pebble out of my shoe or whatever, but it wasn't too much of a problem. So I kind of liked not having to wear these. It was just one less thing that I had to worry about keeping track of and putting on every day. If you like gaiters and you want to wear them, I do recommend the Dirty Girls. They're about 20 bucks a pair and they hold up well. I know that from prior experience. They have all kinds of crazy designs and colors or whatever. You buy them to fit whatever shoe size you are. And I have no complaints with them in that regard. These are the gaiters I would wear if I was going to wear them. I just felt I didn't really need them. So I think from here on out, I'm probably going to be leaving the gaiters at home. Sorry, the dog was over there snoring in the corner. I don't know if you could hear that, but I kind of pushed her along. Real quick, before we get into shoes, let's talk about insoles. Again, I didn't wear insoles throughout the entire hike. When I did wear insoles, it was usually these Superfeet Trailblazers. This is a brand new pair that I had waiting to be shipped out to me, and I just never shipped them out, so I have them for the future. These are still my favorite insoles. They have the carbon bottoms that are good for, you know, those sharp rocks or whatever. Just kind of protects the arches of your feet a little better. I'm always going to recommend these Superfeet Trailblazers to people who have sensitive feet like I do. These were definitely a game changer on the AT when I was dealing with a lot of rocks and roots. Not so much necessary on the PCT. It got to a point where I was mostly just using the insoles that came with the shoes while I was on the PCT, and you know, that worked okay for me. I think most of my foot issues were coming from the actual shoes that I was wearing. But yeah, Superfeet's a good brand. They have all different insoles for different things, whatever you need, like arch support, or yeah, I don't know what all the different ones are, but I know there's a number of different options. So check them out if you're looking for a good hiking insole. They're not cheap, again, like 50 bucks, I think, but I usually replace these with every pair of shoes that I replace. Now, as far as things that I wore all the time, lastly, we will talk about shoes. Again, I don't have any pair of shoes to show you because the ones that I finished with were destroyed and I threw them away as soon as I finished the hike. Footwear was kind of the bane of my existence during this thru hike. When I was on the AT, I wore Ultra Olympuses. I wore the Olympus 4s the entire hike. I think I went through 4 pairs, which is typical for a thru hike. And I had no complaints. I loved them. They worked great for my feet. And I never looked back. They were the only trail runner that I ever wore. On the PCT, it was a little different. I was wearing the Ultra Olympus 5s. I blew through 2 pair very quickly. They just weren't holding up, and mostly because my feet were just like breaking through the sides of the shoe. So, and I'm talking in under 200 miles, you know, my pinky toes would be hanging out of the shoe because they would, you know, have these giant holes on the sides. To me, it seemed like a design flaw. They sort of added like little ventilation holes on the sides of the shoe, and it just seemed like that was sort of a weak spot. That area would just kind of pull when you were hiking, and eventually it would just create a hole. So after going through 2 pairs of those very quickly, I got frustrated and I said I'm done with Ultra, and I switched to Topos. Topos were fine, but I couldn't really find the model that suited me the best. I started with the Ultra Venture 3s, which had the real thick, cushiony soles. Then I switched to the Traverses because the Ultra Ventures were, again, not really holding up for me. After a few hundred miles, again, I was breaking through the sides of the shoe. The Traverses, I wore a few different pairs of those, and they were great in that they held up. The tread was better, but their downfall was that they rubbed the back of my heel really bad. So I always had gnarly blisters and scabs on the back of my heel that were causing problems. And it was during my Traverse use that I started to develop that really bad toe pain on my left foot. And I thought that was due to the shoe. Then I switched to the third model of Topos that I tried, which was the Terra Ventures. And the Terra Ventures had the shortest stack height, so the thinnest sole. They were more comfortable on my feet than the Traverses were, which is why I chose them. And I went through a couple pairs of those as well. Those were the shoes that I finished with. All in all, I don't think throughout the PCT I really found that perfect shoe for me. I definitely think that I'm going to be sticking with Topos from here on out. The Altra situation just really frustrated me, and I'm not going to keep paying their insane prices for shoes that just don't hold up. The Topos I think are better quality. I think they last longer overall, and as far as I remember, the price points are a little lower on them, which was always a plus. All in all, I went through, I think, 8 pairs of shoes on the PCT, which is just absurd to me. That's double what I went through on the AT. I don't like to replace my shoes. You know, if they get a little hole in them here and there, if the tread wears out, whatever, you know, I make them work as long as I can. And I continued to do that on this hike. It's just, no shoes were lasting quite like they used to a few years ago. It seems like these companies, just in general, the quality has gone down, and that's kind of a shame. 8 pairs of shoes during a thru hike is crazy to me. That's over $1,000 in just sneakers. So keep that in mind when you're planning your thru hike. The shoes that you wear on your, you know, weekend trips or day hikes may be great for you, and probably are great for the average person, but when you're doing these thru hikes, these shoes just aren't lasting like they should be, in my experience. You know, other people I'm sure have different experiences, but y'all have to realize that I'm basing what I'm saying off of what I went through on the thru hike. If I had to pick one shoe to try again, and the shoe that I'm probably going to buy as my next hiking shoe, it probably will be the Topo Terra Ventures again. Even though they have the smallest stack height out of any of the shoes, they have the thinnest sole, if you will. You know, I found I didn't really need all that cushion that I thought that I always needed. That model shoe was just the most comfortable for me and my feet. I thought they had a little more room in the toe box than some of the others, and that's what I need, is a nice wide shoe. So I'm gonna keep riding with those, and maybe I'll find that perfect shoe or a shoe that works better for me in the future. All right, now we'll start talking about some of the things that I didn't wear all the time, but I pretty much always carried with me. This would be the gear that I slept in a lot of the times, things that I wore in town, and some of the outerwear and things like that that I usually kept in a dry bag in my pack. First up is my buff. This is a buff that I got on my AT hike. I have a few different ones, but this is the one that I chose to carry on this particular thru hike. I used to wear these a lot around my neck to protect my neck from the sun, but wearing the sun hoodie kind of solved that issue for me, so I hardly ever wore this at all. It pretty much spent most of the time in the pack. What I did end up using it for was my beanie on those colder days. I often carried a smart wool beanie on some of my other hikes. On this one, I didn't really find it necessary. Again, I thought it was just an extra thing that I would have had to carry. So what I usually did was, if you kind of like twist up the buff like this and then pull one end down, you can kind of create a little bit of a beanie hat, and, you know, wear it on your head like this. I'm sure some of y'all saw me with it on in the videos, but that's kind of what I wore as my beanie, and I slept in it sometimes like that. But most of the time this was just in my pack. It's so light, it has many uses. You know, I would use it to dry out the inside of my tent, you know, condensation or whatever. There were a lot of times in towns, you know, at campgrounds and things where you were using public showers, and a lot of times you don't have washcloths. So I would often use this as a washcloth, you know, to help scrub off some of the dirt and grime that gets built up on your legs or whatever. So I'm pretty much always going to carry a buff. Even if I don't use it, it doesn't weigh much of anything, and you know, people find other uses for them. They use them as their handkerchief, or, you know, clean their feet off with them at the end of the night. Another use for these that I should mention, especially for the PCT, is when it's super smoky, you can wet this thing down and then, you know, wear it around your neck and around your face like this to kind of help you breathe in the smoky areas. Thankfully, we didn't have to deal with smoke that was that thick, but I know that that's something else that you can use these for. You can also use these as like a pre-filter for when filtering your water. You know, if you have water that has a lot of like dirt or sludge or shit in there, you can kind of put this over the, you know, the top of your dirty bottle and kind of filter the water through this before you put it through your actual filter. That'll help your filter not get clogged quite as quickly. So again, many uses. It's good to carry a buff. Next up, let's talk about my Hollywood shirt. This thing is destroyed. I got this for $5 while I was in LA from like one of those little shops on the street. This is sort of part of the reason why I got my trail name, but this ended up being my sleep shirt. I know most people on a thru hike are not going to carry cotton shirts. I ended up carrying one on my AT hike as well, and I really liked it. It just gave me something nice and comfortable to wear at night and in towns. And, you know, it gets to a point, at least for me on these thru hikes, where I don't care about weight as much. You know, at the beginning planning stages, I'm looking at base weight a lot. I'm looking at getting the lightest things possible. And then when you're out there and doing it for so long, you start adding stupid things. And this was one of my stupid things. And I don't regret it. It's probably going to happen if I do another long hike again, where I just carry a cotton shirt to wear around. Not really a piece of backpacking gear, but I did carry this for the majority of the hike. And now I wear it to sleep in at home. Next up, we'll talk about leggings. These are my Smart Wool 250 base layer leggings. Same ones I wore on the AT. This is the only pair of leggings that I've ever had for backpacking. And they're still holding up. There's a few small holes throughout, like in the knees here, that I've gotten from thorns and things like that. Some holes on the ankles here or whatever. These are definitely well past their prime, but they're still going strong. These things are nice and warm. They're not the lightest leggings in the world, but I'm going to keep using them on those colder trips. I carry these up through I'll say probably the end of the Sierra. I think after the Sierra, I ended up sending these home because I ended up with these at Kennedy Meadows South. These have a little bit of a story. I think I told it in the vlog, but pretty much there was a hiker. We referred to him as No Map Mark. He was an older gentleman who was hiking the PCT with no maps or anything. He was always lost. He never knew where water was. It was hilarious or whatever. But when we met him in the desert, he was wearing these bad boys, and we thought it was kind of funny. Fast forward a few weeks, Fireball's wearing them at Kennedy Meadows South, and she asked me, you know, if I wanted them before she put them in a hiker box, and I said, hell yeah, I want them. So these are a lot more lightweight. I think these are just cheap, like Walmart leggings, and this is what I carried after I sent these home, just because these are quite a bit lighter, and these worked out fine toward the end of the hike. And these would probably work fine for most people. It's just I'm typically a colder person, I would say, so I like to have the 250 Smart Wool leggings, but even a cheap pair of Walmart leggings like this would probably do you fine on a thru hike. I didn't hike in leggings very often. On the really, really cold days in the Sierra, I did hike in them, but that was few and far between. Most of the time, these were for in town or while I was sleeping. But 2 thru hikes with these Smart Wool leggings, I'm kind of impressed by that, and they're still going strong. A few other pairs of bottoms that I had. First and foremost, we'll talk about these Enlightened Equipment wind pants. I said it once and I'll say it again. This is one of my favorite pieces of gear, period. Hands down. I freaking love these things. Again, this was their second thru hike, and they did end up with some holes in them, so I had to Leukotape the holes shut. The ass just ripped out a couple times. And this stuff, I mean, it's so thin that you would expect these to rip right away on like a weekend hike. So for me to go through 2 thru hikes with these, and just now, you know, get some tears in them, I'm happy with that. And I'm going to absolutely be buying another pair of these. They're not cheap, but they're so worth it to me. They cut through wind like butter. They're great for those cool mornings You know, you can just throw them up over your shoes, over whatever shorts you're wearing, you know, trek on for a few miles in the morning until you get warmed up, and then just take them off. And you know, I often put them in that bottom pocket on my pack or whatever, but you know, they roll up into absolutely nothing. They weigh nothing, less than an ounce. So these are always going to be in my pack no matter what. These were also great for those situations where you're doing laundry and you have no other clothes to wear. So these would be what I would wear while I was doing laundry. I've never washed these. I never really felt a need to. I assume you have to hand wash them, but I'm sure they would dry out nice and quick. They have little snaps down on the ankle here, which I like to have, especially in those situations where you're wearing them, you know, with bare feet or whatever. Because if you're wearing them with bare feet, they'll slip under your heels and you'll be stepping all over them or whatever. So to be able to cinch them around your ankle was kind of nice. They have a little drawstring, fit around your waist. Other than that, I know they look really dumb. It's like you're wearing a hefty bag, but this is a staple in my gear. So I'm going to keep carrying them. But not this pair. This pair is going straight in the trash. Another pair of pants that I'll talk about are these Z-Packs Virtus rain pants. I didn't have these very long, and I never carry rain pants. We'll talk about rain gear a little later. But if you remember groceries, I think these were actually hers, and I don't know if they didn't fit her well or whatever the reason was. She was getting ready to put these in a hiker box. And this was in Kennedy Meadows South as well, right before the Sierra. And I said, you know, Z-Packs Virtus pants, they're not cheap. So I'm like, yeah, I'm absolutely going to take them. They fit me well. They were my size. So I snagged them. And basically these I used as my glissading pants. So glissading, if you remember, is when you're in the snow and, you know, there's a steep, you know, snowy descent or whatever. You can kind of just sit on your ass and slide down the hill on your ass. So we like to do that. It was a lot of fun. But if you do it in shorts, you kind of scrape your ass raw. And I learned that from experience. That was not fun. And I didn't want to do that in my wind pants because I know that would have ripped them to shreds. So even though these are nice, expensive rain pants, I did get them for free, and that's what I use them for. And even using them for glissading, like, yeah, there's some holes in the back, as you can probably see here. But it didn't, like, split them wide open or anything. They're probably definitely not as water resistant anymore, but they're still in decent shape. So I really just carried these through the Sierra specifically for glissading. I might have worn them another time or two in town or whatever, but I sent these home pretty much right after the Sierra. But they were nice to have. Always protect your ass before you glissade because you will scrape it raw. Trust me. And it's not fun. Next up, we'll talk about what I put on my hands during the really cold days. These are, again, Enlightened equipment. These are the Torrid Apex mitts, I think is what they are. These are synthetic. There's no down in these. And I got the version that you can flip back to get to your fingers. I love these things. They weigh less than the little Smart Wool liner gloves that I have, and these are much more warm. I get really cold hands. My hands get really numb in the cold. I probably have freaking Raynaud's or something like that, but so these were a must-have for me. And I wore them pretty often. Again, they kind of look silly, especially when, like, I don't have a big outer layer on. Like, I just have a sun hoodie and then these on or whatever. But those liner gloves would not have cut it for me on the PCT. There were a lot of very cold nights and mornings, and these were a lifesaver. I know that the synthetic material you can wear and get wet, and they'll still keep you warm. I will say that during a really bad rainstorm around Timberline Lodge, I did wear these in the rain to keep my hands warm. And I think they did their job in that regard, but they took absolutely forever to dry out. And I said that I would never wear these in the rain again, and I probably wouldn't. These would probably be good if you put like a rain mitt over top of them or something like that. But nice and warm, kept my hands really cozy. And again, I'm always going to carry them. They weigh next to nothing. Torrid Apex mitts. Next up is these sealskin waterproof socks. I've been carrying these forever. AT hike, every weekend hike in between. And I carry them most of the PCT. I definitely sent them home at some point. And I'll show you why in a little bit. But these are waterproof socks. Mainly what I used them for was like a camp shoe. I don't typically carry camp shoes. So whenever my feet would get soaking wet during a hike, I would essentially put these on at camp, you know, at the end of the day, and then put my foot into my wet shoe so that my dried out feet would not get wet again. It was especially nice if you had to like get out of your tent in the middle of the night and take a pee or something. You didn't have to put wet shoes on your, you know, warm, dry feet. So that's usually what I use these for. They're not very lightweight, so that's why I don't love carrying them, but they've done their job for me. They're also nice to wear in the snow. They definitely keep your feet warmer than traditional socks, but your feet sweat pretty bad in these. They're also kind of a pain to dry out. They take forever to dry, and I don't think you're supposed to put them in a dryer, like a tumble dryer. So I was usually trying to air dry these. And I mean, they hold water in them like a balloon. You know, if you fill this up with water, it would be like a balloon. So yeah, just kind of a pain to dry them. I'm probably going to be retiring these. I recommend them if it's something that you think you would like for snow hiking or whatever. But I've just found some other options for, you know, camp shoes that are lighter than Crocs and take up less space. I'm not going to talk about those because I haven't used them yet, but I'm probably going to try some of those in the future and get rid of these. Toward the end of the hike, I did start carrying a pair of sandals, and we'll talk about those in a little bit, but I think after that I ended up sending these home. But they do work, they are waterproof, and they've served me well over the years. Just not something I'm feeling that I need much anymore. Another little miscellaneous item is my bug net. This is an Evans Naturals bug net from Amazon, super cheap. But it's nice and big. It's got a little drawstring around it so you can cinch it around your neck. It'll fit over pretty much any hat or whatever. And this thing did well. There's no holes or tears in it. I didn't use this very often except for in Northern California. That's when we hit the worst mosquitoes, and y'all know from the vlogs that was probably my least favorite thing about the PCT was the bugs. Thankfully, we didn't have to deal with it for too long, but this was a lifesaver when I needed it. And actually, I used the wind pants for bug protection as well, you know, on my legs. So that's another use for those. But yeah, just nothing fancy here, just a regular old bug net. Definitely a must-have on the PCT, though, I will say. I hate wearing these because having this mesh in front of your face, it kind of messes with your eyes, and it's just really annoying, and the bugs land on it and you can see them all over your head net or whatever, but it's better than getting bit, right? So definitely get you a bug net. Next up, we'll talk about some of my outerwear. Again, this is something that I carried at all times. This is the Senshi Designs. I think this is the Alpha 60. It's the lightest weight one that they have. This was my mid layer, my fleece layer, if you will. This thing weighs 4 ounces, which is the main reason why I got it. I have a couple Mellies. I have a alpaca fleece, you know, App Gear Co. or whatever it is. But having a mid layer that's as warm as this is, that weighs 4 ounces, is a total game changer. I love this thing. People kind of joked around, said that it looked like chainmail, and it did. With the color option that I chose, it did look like a freaking chainmail. But that didn't bother me any. This material is really interesting. You can probably see, you can see right through it. So you wouldn't think that this is warm, but it sort of acts as an insulation. You know, I don't really know the science behind it, but for what it is, it keeps you a lot warmer than you think it would. And it breathes very well, better than any fleece that I think you're going to find. I like that it has the tight, you know, face, again, it sort of cinches around your face, so that was nice. It doesn't have any pockets, which is probably my main complaint about it. I think some of the more heavyweight versions do have pockets, but I think even so, I would still end up getting this just because it's so lightweight. There's definitely some tears in it. You can't really wear this thing through any sort of brush or, you know, a lot of overgrown trail, things that this is going to get snagged on, because it will get snagged on absolutely everything. And there are some little holes all throughout, but it's in really good shape when you consider how much I wore it and some of the, you know, terrain we were going through or whatever. I would upsize maybe if I were to get another one. I think I bought my regular size and it was very form-fitting, which was fine. You know, I ended up losing a bunch of weight on the trail. But if you're going to get one for weekend hikes or, you know, just average use, then maybe think about upsizing. But yeah, this is a game changer. I always like to carry my puffy jacket, which we'll talk about next. And sometimes it feels stupid to carry a puffy jacket and a fleece layer. But this kind of, you know, solves the problem where you don't have to carry a puffy and a half-pound or 11-ounce fleece on top of it. So, Senchi Designs. And they come with these little bags. This is where you put it in to wash it. So anytime you throw it in the washing machine, you put it in this bag. And that keeps it from getting snagged on the agitator or whatever. And actually, this bag is what I ended up using as my clothes bag. My pack was nice and waterproof. It wasn't raining a whole lot on the PCT, so I felt I didn't need a dry bag. And I just put all of my clothes in this thing. Last up for this category, if you will, is, like I said, my puffy jacket or my down jacket or my not down jacket. This is the Enlightened Equipment Torrid Apex synthetic jacket. There is no down in this. It is synthetic. I like that because if it gets wet, it will keep you warm still. Again, second through hike with this thing. I wear it in my day-to-day life. Somehow there are still no holes in this thing. I can't believe that. I wear this every day now. It's nice and cold here in Pennsylvania, so this is what I wear to and from the gym or whatever. But yeah, I don't really have any complaints with these. I'm sure you can find warmer jackets out there. I don't know what they are. I can't talk about them because this is really the only one that I've ever had. It fits really nice. I often wore this over top of the Senchi in really cold weather. A lot of nights I would sleep in this if I was super cold. You can get all kind of different colors. For some reason, I decided to choose black. Black's my favorite color. But again, it makes you look like a hefty bag. There's pockets on both sides that you can zipper closed. And there's really not a whole lot more to say about it. It's a great jacket. It's lightweight. And it kept me plenty warm enough. Gonna keep on using it, hopefully for the third through hike, whenever that may be. All right, and just a few more items to go through. These are the sandals that I carried. These are Earth Runner primitive sandals. I didn't particularly get these for hiking. I more got these just for everyday life or whatever. But these are the ones that I ended up having shipped out, and then I shipped home the waterproof socks. It was really nice to have sandals on the PCT because there were a lot of times where we were swimming in lakes or you know, things like that, and I don't like doing that in bare feet because I'm afraid I'm going to step on a rock or slice my foot open or something like that. So I did opt to have these sandals shipped out to me. Again, probably not the lightest options. I don't know what they weigh. They're somewhat light, but not what I would typically choose for a through hike, I guess. And these are primitive sandals. You can see they're super, super thin. And they're great for, you know, around the house or in normal life, but I could never do any sort of hiking or whatever with these. I'm sure some people can, but I have really sensitive feet, so you know, it still hurt to walk on things with these on. I do like these sandals. There's some other brands that are making similar ones that I may go with in the future. My main complaint with these is just the strap system. They're just such a pain in the ass. If you want to like adjust them, you kind of have to take the whole thing apart, and in order to put it back together, I really have to like look at the diagram or watch a YouTube video and really do it carefully because it's very confusing. It's all one strap and it kind of loops underneath and around, like it's sort of confusing. So for that reason, I probably wouldn't get these again. They're also not the most comfortable straps either. I know they're supposed to be primitive sandals. That's kind of the point or whatever, but yeah, it's just not worth the hassle to me. Earthrunner brand, I think, is a great brand. They have really good reviews. I'm sure some of the other models of sandals would probably do better for me. But these ones in particular, this will probably be my last pair of Earthrunners. Again, I do recommend some sort of sandal or camp shoe on the PCT, and I can't believe I'm saying that because I've always been so against the extra weight and the hassle of carrying camp shoes. But these were great to have, like I said, when you're swimming. Also, if you're in public showers or whatever, you sometimes don't want to put your bare feet on those floors. So it's good to have something like this. These were great in towns. And a primitive sandal is probably not your best option if you're walking up and down the street for miles or whatever. But yeah, like I said, some of these companies I think are coming out with different options for camp shoe. I saw that Z-Packs has come out with a very lightweight camp shoe, if you will. It's almost like a sock with like a hard bottom or whatever. I saw some other hikers on the PCT that had something similar, just from Amazon. They were cheap and they roll up into nothing. You can just stuff them in your pack. So that's probably what I'm going to go with in the future. Sort of a good in between, the sandal and the waterproof sock. So look into those options if you're looking for a good camp shoe. The Crocs, I think, for me, they're just too heavy. I know they're comfortable and they're easy, but and having a pair of Crocs dangle off the back of my pack is just, that would drive me insane. So that's why I don't carry them. Lastly, let's talk about rain gear. First up is the Enlightened Equipment Visp rain jacket. I was very excited to get this thing. I'd been on the waiting list to get one forever. For a while, they were not making these. I actually reached out to them and I'm like, hey, like, where the hell are the Visp? Everyone loves these things and talks about them. Why aren't you selling them? I don't think they could get the material for a while. So for 6 months to a year, these just were unavailable. They did finally bring them back and I was able to snag one. This was the only color they had available at the time. I'm not sure what they have available now. This thing is great. It fits great. One of the main benefits is the pit zips. I think they kind of were the first ones to do that, maybe. It's a good little feature to have. You can kind of cinch the hood down in the back to make it fit your head properly. It's very light, lighter than a lot of the other rain jackets that I've had. I want to say it's like 5 ounces or something like that, which I know my Outdoor Research rain jacket that I wore was half a pound. So it's a little lighter. And it's really light material, but it seems really durable. It seems like it's going to hold up well. I can't give this a whole lot of a review because we got so little rain on the PCT. It was hard to give this a true test. There was a very bad downpour that I always talk about right around Timberline Lodge. That was the worst rainstorm that we had. And I know that this thing kept me dry for sure. Much drier than I know that Outdoor Research would have kept me. I hated that rain jacket. That's why I switched to this. This is not a cheap rain jacket, by the way. I'm talking $250, maybe even closer to $300 or something, which is crazy for a rain jacket. But it's something that I think I'll have for a long time. It's got a lot of use left in it, and I hope it holds up well and it continues to keep me dry for hikes in the future. It's been recommended to me by so many people. Everyone talks very highly of these. So I'm excited to, put it through the ringer a little more. On the bottom, I like to carry a rain kilt or a rain skirt instead of rain pants. There's just more ventilation. It's easier to put on, and lighter weight, of course, than rain pants. This is the Z-Packs Dyneema one. It's the same one I had on the AT. This thing is destroyed. It's been ripped since the beginning of my AT hike. It ripped within the first week or so. I've just never replaced it. I think because I get so little use out of it. If it's a light rain, I oftentimes don't even put the rain jacket on. If it's medium rain, then I'll put the rain jacket on, and I don't really care if my shorts get wet. If it's a really heavy rain, then I will put this on. But I'm definitely going to get something else next time. I don't think Dyneema is the best material to have, you know, for a rain skirt. And I'm really bummed that this ripped so quick, especially for how much I paid for this thing. So this is going to be going in the trash. I can't really recommend it because it didn't hold up. It's Dyneema, so it does keep you dry, but I think I might try like a Sil Nylon one or something like that in the future. I'm going to keep on using the rain skirts though. I have no desire to use rain pants, and I think if, you know, a lot of y'all can get past how goofy they look, you might become a fan as well. Another thing I like to use this for was like if it was a rainy night, I would lay this down in my vestibule, in my closed vestibule, and I'd put my pack or some of my gear on top of it just to keep my gear a little more dry. But yeah, another item that's just probably going to go straight in the trash after this video. Alright y'all, I think that's pretty much it. That is all the clothing that I wore and I carried on my PCT thru hike. If you have any questions about any of this stuff, please let me know in the comments. Again, as always, I appreciate y'all continuing to watch these videos. I'm going to be starting up a barbering YouTube channel. I'm doing all the social media shit for my barbering journey. I haven't started any of that yet. I created the accounts, but you know, I'm working on getting a logo made. And I'm going to start trying to market myself a little bit in that regard. I know some of y'all said that you would watch my barber videos. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm sure a lot of y'all don't care, but you might see me pop up, you know, with more of a professional page for my barbering career. But anyway, thanks for watching. I still have a lot more gear to go over. I think the next one I'll do like electronics or something like that. I'm just going to keep doing a video here and there for different categories. So with that being said, I will see y'all next time. I hope you enjoy your holiday. I know Christmas is coming up, and you know, if I don't see you before the new year, I hope you have a great New Year's. And yeah, we will see you in the next one. Peace out, party people. Have a good one.